Good afternoon, everybody. I will try that again. Good afternoon, everybody. I like it. Well, it's great to be here today, and I'm really grateful that all of you came out for the first State of the College address. The state of our college is quite strong, and what I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about the past. I'm going to talk about our students, and I'm going to talk about the LSA budget, and then I'm going to talk about two of the big projects that many of us in the room have been working on over the last academic year, and let you know where we're headed with regard to our diversity, equity, and inclusion plans. And I'll conclude by talking about the LSA Opportunity Hub, which is something that the regents gave their first blessing yesterday, and I'm proud to be here today to talk about what we're up to. But first, I want to talk about our students. These are some data about our entering class this year. Median GPA for our first-year students was 3.9. That's held steady over last year. And you'll see the SAT and ACT medians, and those are higher than they were last year. We had over 31,000 applications to enroll in LSA. We gave admission to a little over 8,600, giving us a selectivity percentage of just under 28%. This is the strongest and also the biggest first-year class that we have ever had. But of course, you know that our students are a lot more than these metrics. I've had a couple of opportunities in the last couple of weeks to talk to our first-year students, and if you haven't, go out there and talk to these students. The students that come to this place are extraordinary. They bring all different types of experience and background here. They come together as a community, and they're doing really, really great things. We've had an uptick in applications from international students, a 15% increase this year, and a 6% increase for our non-resident applications. Our entering class, 4,648. That's a big class, which does have some positive implications for the budget, but also puts an enormous amount of stress on many of you. I think we were able to plan a little bit better than we have in the past in terms of the number of students who will be entering the college, and I am deeply grateful for all of the work that you've done to ensure that we got those students oriented into their dormitories, here on campus, and ultimately into our classrooms. This year we had a 31% increase in low-income student applications. This is something that we should be very, very proud of, and is due in no small part to the HAIL Scholarship, the High Achieving Involved Leader Scholarship. This is a new initiative out of the Office of University Admissions to target students in the state of Michigan who would qualify for a full financial aid package to come in Michigan. We reached out to those students, we worked very hard to communicate effectively, and we got a 31% increase in applications from that student group, furthering our commitment to access at the University of Michigan. This year, we also had 952 applications from underrepresented minority groups. We care a lot about the diversity of our student body, and it's something that we've worked very hard on. Today, 9% of our undergraduate students come from underrepresented minority groups. 15% of our graduate students come from the same demographic category. At the bottom, you'll see a time series plot which shows the percentage of entering URM students. And you'll see a huge step function increase in 2015. This is because of the leadership of Kedra Ishap, who's running our admissions office today and is doing a fabulous job. And you'll see for 2016, we've seen an even greater increase. We still have a lot of work to do to return to the levels pre-post Prop 2, but we have been doing a very good job. One of the programs that we've been focusing a lot on is the Comprehensive Studies program. And this summer, we increased the number of students in Comprehensive Studies to 265. Again, a lot of stress for the folks who are here on the ground with our Summer Bridge students. But I've had an opportunity to talk to many of those students, some of whom are here today, and heard what an outstanding program that they experienced to get their academic and social legs under them before the rest of our student body shows up. We added an additional 50 summer CSP students who were here taking classes. Right? We do this to help ensure the academic success of our students, something that we should be proud of. Now I want to talk a little bit at a high level about the LSA budget. So here's the budget on the revenue side, right? This is money that's coming in. Last fiscal year 2016, we had $752 million come in the door. You might wonder, where does that money come from? Well, this graph shows you where that money comes from. Well over 80% comes from the general fund, and I'll break that general fund down. That's where all the tuition resides. A little over 10% of our budget comes from sponsored research. 6.6% of that budget, which is a small percentage, but is a huge dollar amount, right? Almost $50 million comes from gift funds. And then we have these small designated and auxiliary funds that bring in revenue from a couple of programs that we have. Here's where the general fund money comes from. Right? 78% of the general fund comes from undergraduate tuition, 9% from graduate tuition, and then we have a handful of other things. The general fund supplement that you see up there is a black box that the provost's office used to redistribute funds between schools and colleges. So that's what things look like on a revenue side. Here's an all funds look at where we are on the expenditure side. So this includes all of the general fund money and all the other revenue that comes into the college. Right? Our largest expenditure, 21%, is financial aid. Right? We as a college invest over $150 million a year on student financial aid. Right? We do that because we value having a widely diverse group of students on our campus. Right, our next biggest expenditure are faculty salaries at 19% of the budget, 15% goes to staff salary, and 14% goes to benefits for all of us. Right, you see that 10% of our budget goes to taxes. Right, we collect tuition, we pay taxes to Central, and that supports all of the things that the university provides to the college. Right, and you'll see the rest of our budgetary categories as well. Now, if you're paying attention, right, you'll see that our expenditures were actually a little bit less than our revenues last year. Right, so we ran a modest $3 or $4 million surplus last year if we look at all funds. Now, one of the things that have made the budget really challenging for this college for quite some time is the decrease in support for the University of Michigan by the state. So if you look at this graph, it goes all the way back to 1960. Right, you'll see in 1960, 80% of that general fund budget, this is university-wide, 80% came from the state of Michigan. If you roll forward 50 years till today, you'll see that 16% of our budget comes from the state of Michigan. Right, and 50 years ago, we were only collecting 20% of our revenue from tuition. Today, it's 72%. For those of you in the natural science or social science division, we are a very research-active college, and we've had a little bit of growth, but roughly 12% of our revenue comes from indirect cost recovery on the research grants that you all are out writing. Now, this has put the college at one level under a great deal of financial stress. At the same time, given fantastic stewardship by my predecessors and a real attention to efficient fund utilization, we were able to emerge from a 14-year recession in the state of Michigan and radically declining state support in a relatively healthy budgetary environment. Our alumni have also stepped up in great ways as well through philanthropy, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Another way to think about the state appropriation is to look back and see what would the state appropriation look like today if the state of Michigan had just held things constant. So here you go back to 2004, 2005, roughly $320 million coming to the university from the state of Michigan. Right, the light blue line, right, inflation adjusts that to today, right, and you'll see in real dollars the actual state appropriation. It's a $155 million gap. I think about it, it's a $155 million gap on a $750 million budget. That's a lot of resources that we had to make up. And we made up with it through tuition and philanthropy and good stewardship while maintaining our commitment to access such that every qualified student who's admitted to our college is able to enroll. An important part of that is philanthropy, and we are doing very well with the Victors for Michigan campaign. As you know, the university goal is $4 billion, and we have 2 years and 3 months to go in this capital campaign. College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, we set a goal of $400 million, and I'm pleased to report that as of today, we've raised $383 million, 96% of that $400 million goal. And I have every reason to believe that we're going to surpass that $400 million within the next month or two, certainly by the end of the year. An important sub-goal in our campaign was student support. We set, of that $400 million, we wanted to dedicate $160.5 million to fund student support. That's scholarships for tuition, room, and board, but also for things like scholarships for internships and study abroad experiences. We've already blown past that goal. We're at 120% of that goal. We've raised almost $200 million for student support. I said we have 3 months and 2 years to go in this capital campaign, and I have every reason to believe that we'll raise at least $500 million in this campaign, if not more. Right? That's going to provide us the resources to be able to drive these initiatives that I'm about to talk about. So that's the state of the budget, and our budget is actually a healthy one. And now that we have certainty in terms of the size of our entering class going forward, we're going to be in a position where we're not going to be running huge surpluses, but we're also not going to be running huge deficits as well. And we're going to be able to be strategic and invest in the areas that we deem of highest importance. We have some big capital projects that are going on right now. For those of you who have kept your eyes open going up and down Washtenaw for the last year and a half, you'll see the Biological Sciences building. We're going to be moving our 2 biology departments out of the 101-year-old Krause building. We're going to turn the keys over to the School of Kinesiology and move into an absolutely state-of-the-art science building, which is also going to include our new Natural History Museum. It's a big project, $261 million. And if you haven't seen it already, the skin of the building is starting to go on. So you can see the exterior terracotta on this fantastic building. We have another capital project. This is a facility. If you go down State Street, and rather than turning right to go to Costco, if you turn left and go in a little bit, this is a huge facility that's going to house our research collections, which are simply scientific treasures that we've curated at this university for over 150 years. And this building is not only going to allow us to preserve those collections, but actually harness them even more for the research activities of our faculty and students. And finally, we have the Weiser Hall renovation, which is moving along very well. That, too, is a large capital project. And by next summer, we'll be moving into that building, which has a theme of bringing LSA to the world. So a lot of our international programming and the International Institute, among other things, will be in Weiser Hall. There's a 4th capital project having to do the Opportunity Hub that I'll talk about in just a little bit. So the next thing that I want to talk about is our diversity, equity, and inclusion process. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion must be more than a slogan. Perhaps now more than ever, we need to embrace the proposition that diversity makes us stronger and better as an academic institution. In order to get there, we've got to make real commitments, and we've got to build real mechanisms for creating a campus environment where all of our students, faculty, and staff feel welcomed and are valued. Last academic year, we as a community went through a strategic planning process. Thank you to all of you who participated in part of that process. Of course, because each of you were involved in a small slice of the process, you couldn't see the totality of the college's plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion until we released it at the end of last month. There is a lot in that plan. I hope you've had a chance to begin to read it and digest it, and we really need some feedback from the community about what we've gotten right and what we've gotten wrong. Let me share some of the highlights of last academic year. Last academic year, we hired the college's first diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, working closely with our chief administrators and our human resources staff, Letitia Cunningham, who is with us today. So welcome aboard. Last academic year, we welcomed the National Center for Institutional Diversity, a long-standing center here at the University of Michigan, into LSA. That center is now being directed by Tabby Chavez. We've also launched a big initiative to reinvent the Comprehensive Studies program under the leadership of Harold Waters. We're expanding our investment in CSP that'll extend from the Summer Bridge program all the way through the 4 years of college experience. This is a program that has been around for a long time. This year we're celebrating the 41st anniversary of the Summer Bridge Scholars Program. It's something that we're doing great things with, and really allowing and empowering these students to have the same experience here at the University of Michigan as our most privileged students. Just one example. Last academic year, we went to all the seniors in CSP and said, look, are you thinking about graduate or professional school? If so, would you like to take a test prep course? We were able to partner with Kaplan to bring them into our space and to offer to all of our seniors in CSP the same test preparation courses that our most privileged students would be taking on South University. Again, this is the type of investment that we're making in our students. Last year, we continued our laptop loan program. One thing that we learned is 6% of our undergraduate students who show up at the University of Michigan don't have a tablet, a smartphone, or a laptop. But imagine how stigmatizing it may be to sit in a large lecture and say, all right, why don't you take out your phone, we're going to do an online survey, and you actually don't have the technology. So we reached out to students, and we're now loaning them laptops. We have to loan them to them because of financial aid regulations, but we're loaning them to these students for 4 years, and we're even giving students these laptops when they come for orientation. So they've got a couple of weeks or months in order to get oriented to their new technology. We've also surveyed a lot of administrators who work with our students to see what we need to be doing to improve the campus climate. And our DEI plan has lots of different actionable items that we're going to be rolling forward this year to help improve our climate. Last year, we had a number of community forums for faculty, students, and staff to come and give their feedback about what is working and what isn't working on our campus today. And I also charged a task force last fall. It was chaired by Associate Dean Liz Cole, to ask them to look at our faculty recruiting and retention strategies to come up with some ideas for ways in which we can further diversify our faculty. There is going to be a lot of activity with regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion this academic year. On October 6th, our president is going to be giving a major address to our community where he will launch the university's plan, and you'll get to see what's happening across our campus in this effort. On that day, October 6th, we are going to be launching a new postdoctoral fellowship program. It's the LSA Collegiate Postdoctoral Fellowship Program, acronym LCPFP, because we've got to have an acronym. This is a program designed over the next 5 years to recruit 50 faculty members to the University of Michigan. We're going to provide them pre- or postdoctoral fellowships, depending on their discipline, with the presumption that those positions are going to convert to permanent tenure-track positions thereafter. This is modeled after the President's Postdoctoral Fellowship Program, PPFP, for those of you watching at home, and has had great success on this campus. After the President's speech on October 6th, we will open the website and start collecting applications to recruit what we hope to be a huge cohort of new faculty colleagues over the next 5 years. I should note that we're working very closely with the chairs and directors to ensure that units who are interested in participating will be poised to participate come October and November. We also completed our strategic plan, which is no small feat. There are tons of people in our college who spent countless hours working on our DEI plan. I have to thank 2 associate deans who really stepped up in this regard, Associate Dean Angela Dillard and Associate Dean Elizabeth Cole, who did a ton of work to make sure that our plan was what it should be. Now, our plan is a preliminary one, where we're putting it out for notice and comment. And so we'd like to get some feedback. To that end, next week, we're holding 4 community forums, one for undergraduate students, one for graduate students, one for staff, and one for faculty. The information are on the slides, and on your way out today, we have little pieces of paper that you can grab to tell you where these forums will take place. We also have a website, which we'd encourage you to send any comment you have about the plan. There are 35 or so action items at the end. We're going to be moving forward on almost all of them, but we really need to hear what makes sense and what doesn't from your perspective. Every comment that comes in over the email address gets read, and we really look forward to having a good collective conversation, not only about our values, but the implementation that we're going to begin taking place as early as October. So the final thing that I'd like to talk about is something that I am just really proud to be here and be able to talk about today. And this is a new priority for the college called the LSA Opportunity Hub. This is going to be a place, a physical place and a virtual place and a team of professionals that are going to help our students in ways that we're not helping them so well right now. Now, there are two principles that motivate the LSA Opportunity Hub. The first principle is the liberal arts and sciences are the best way to become richly educated. Now, granted, I am the dean of an arts and sciences college, so it's sort of my job to make that assertion. But I think for all of you who know, who are in our classrooms and are working with our students, and for those of you who are studying here, you get it. Right? The thing that makes a liberal arts and science education great is its breadth. Right? You need breadth to be able to understand culture, to be able to understand economics and politics and society, to understand history and to understand science and to understand art. And we've designed a curriculum to ensure that all of our students have that breadth of training and at the same time have great depth as well. One of our alums, David Colt, who lives in Chicago, wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal in June of this year. Here's what he had to say. It's very simple. A well-rounded liberal arts degree establishes a foundation of critical thinking. Critical thinkers can accomplish anything. A critical thinker is a self-learning machine. It's important to be a self-learning machine. The second principle is that a liberal arts and sciences education provides a foundation for a lifetime. At the highest level, the purpose of a liberal arts and science education is to learn about the complexity of the world and try to understand what one's place is within that world. The ability to do so in a self-reflective, contextual way is what we're trying to accomplish in our educational model. At a more practical level, it's not a bad thing to be a self-learning machine when for most of our graduates, the jobs that they may have 20 or 30 years from now don't even exist today. Right? Think back to when you graduated from your undergraduate institution and look around at the types of things that people are doing in our community. Right? Many of those jobs didn't even exist. Right? And the ability to learn and continue to learn and be self-reflective is an important part of what we're trying to impart to our students. The commitment that we've always made to our students, and one that we're doubling down on today, is a commitment to empower them and to empower each and every one of our LSA students to study whatever it is that they're most inspired by in our curriculum, and at the same time know that they're going to be successful once they leave this place. Part of this is charting the path through our curriculum and through the co-curriculum and through the extracurriculum, but to do so in a strategic and thoughtful manner such that those paths lead out into the world to set up our students for great success. Now, I should note, we're doing many fabulous things in the college already in this domain. We've doubled down on social innovation and entrepreneurship through the Optimized program. We're one of the first places in the country to have an undergraduate research program, the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, which is incredibly robust. The Barger Leadership Institute works with a cohort of our students on leadership skills. The Center for Global and Intercultural Study works to get our students outside of the United States and into the world to experience what life looks like in a very different context. In LSA, we host the Entrepreneurship Minor for every student at the University of Michigan. And there are lots of amazing things that are happening out in our departments. Right, whether that's screen arts and cultures or economics or classics, who are working really hard with their students to help them understand what it is that they're learning and how to translate that into the world. And last but certainly not least is the LSA Internship program, which I'm going to come back to in just a second. So we're doing a lot, but there's a lot more that we could do. We need to help students learn about what opportunities they have before them. Almost every time I have a town hall meeting or hold office hours with students, students walk into my office and say, you know, Dean Martin, it would be great if we did X at the University of Michigan. And invariably, we already are doing X. It's just hard to find out where X is. One of the things the Opportunity Hub is going to do is going to help those students find X. We need to do a better job helping students with professional opportunities within our liberal arts and sciences college. Right? In a sense, it's hard for many of our students to understand what it is that they're actually learning. And one of the things the Hub will do is help students with that exploration. We need to coordinate much better with other resources on campus, including the Career Center and the career services operations that live in lots of our other schools and colleges. And I think most importantly, we need to create a culture that lets our students know that it's okay to major in and study whatever it is you're most passionate about, and that everything is going to be just fine once you leave LSA. So, what we're going to be launching is the Opportunity Hub. The Opportunity Hub has a program and a space and a virtual space, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those. I should note that we've done a significant amount of planning last academic year and spent a lot of time talking with students and alumni and parents and our faculty to understand how can we best build this thing. Now, this thing is still very much a work in progress, and we need continued feedback. And the academic leadership of this program is out there meeting with departments right now to see how we could do this even better. The faculty leadership for this project has been provided by Associate Dean Ann Curzan and Associate Dean Angela Dillard, and I'm really pleased to welcome Assistant Dean Paula Wishart to the LSA team. Paula has worked for 25 years at the University of Michigan in a variety of career services-related roles, including 17 years at the Career Center, and most recently working here with our graduate students in Rackham. She joined us on July 1st to lead the Hub effort, and I'm sure many of you will get the opportunity to work with her in the years to come. So there's 4 cornerstones to what we're doing in the Hub. The first cornerstone, we're actually at scale and doing quite well. The other 3 we're going to be building over the next couple of years. So the first cornerstone is internships. You might not have known about it, but we've had an outstanding internship program. Summer 2016 was just year 3. It's our 3rd year. In our 3rd year, we had over 1,700 internships that were available to our students. And we were able to make a commitment to every student who had need-based financial aid. We told them that if you get an internship, we're going to provide the scholarship support such that you can take that internship. Whether that's a full summer scholarship, if it's an unpaid internship, or perhaps just a little bit of a top-up for a student who might be taking a paid internship in a very expensive market. This last summer, through the support of our alumni and friends, we awarded over $840,000 in scholarship to ensure that every one of our students who wanted an internship could have one. Roughly 10% of those students took internships overseas, which is fascinating. So this is a great part of the Hub, and it's something that we're going to continue to build in the years to come. When we get to full scale, we're talking 4,500 to 5,000 internships every summer, and probably a scholarship award of about $2.5 million a year. We will be able to do this because of the depth of commitment of our alumni. The second cornerstone of the Hub is employer engagement. With our partners around campus, we need to get out there and talk to employers to see if they're interested in having our students as interns, right? Whether they'd be interested in hiring students from the liberal arts and sciences. And we need to have a two-sided conversation. Right? Part of it is to learn what these employers are looking for in terms of hiring LSA students once they leave here. And part of it's also selling a little bit, right? And talking to these employers, the richness that our students can bring into their organizations with their liberal arts and sciences degrees. The third cornerstone is coaching and prep. We, of course, do academic advising at scale very, very well. We do this through the Noonan Advising Center centrally and with all of the advisors who are sharing an information platform working out in our departments and programs. we're going to use that model to do coaching and prep for our students. We're going to have a team of individuals who are in the hub who are going to be available to meet with our students and help them chart their course through our curriculum, to help our students understand what types of opportunities there are before them so they can make good choices and get good experiences which are going to set them up for a fulfilling life. Part of that is going to be within the curriculum. Our curriculum committee has approved the Applied Liberal Arts curriculum, which today holds courses on internships, a pre-internship and a post-internship course, has courses on public speaking, and as we go forward, there'll be some skills-based courses, some just 1 credit hour, some 3 credit hours, available to our students who are interested in rounding out their academic record. Final piece is alumni engagement. Right? Simply put, when our alumni get together with our students, good things happen. Those of you who have had a reception with students and alumni from your departments or programs together know what I'm talking about. Right? Our alumni are committed to giving back. They're committed to giving back financially, but also committed to giving back their time. So we're going to have a team that works with our development operation in LSA and centrally, and with the Alumni Association to have as many rich experiences with our undergraduate students and our alumni as possible. Many of them will be here on campus in the space that we'll be building, but a lot of them are going to be out in the cities where our students are interning in any particular summer. This is how we think the hub should be organized. I should know, as I mentioned before, the internship piece is well built out and functioning quite well, and we're just getting started on the other 3 cornerstones. And over the next 2 years, we're going to be slowly building those teams and adding more and more services to our students. Today, our internship team sits on the 2nd floor of the LSA building, and after Parents' Weekend in about 5 weeks, they'll be down on the 1st floor of the LSA building until we break ground on the capital project. Now, one of the things that makes this challenging are these data. So these data are live on the LSA website. I'd be happy to send you a link to these data. And if you click on the website, you get an interactive graphic, which is now behind me. So on the left side of the graphic has majors, and you can select any major. Why don't we select psychology? If you select psychology, you can see where our psychology majors have ended up in their career choice. These data come from the College Connections interviews that folks in development and marketing communications have been conducting for about a decade. Right? And you'll see that our folks in psychology end up everywhere. Right? They're in finance and legal, and some are in education, some are in healthcare. They're all over the place. The other thing this graphic allows us to do is to select a career and say, from where do students come who end up in a particular career? Why don't we select healthcare? Now, we'd of course expect lots of students coming out of biology and chemistry ending up in health, and that is certainly the case, right? We see lots of folks in psychology. We also see people from screen arts and philosophy and history and political science who end up in healthcare. What this graph illustrates for me, one is a huge challenge. Right? We've actually got 2 huge challenges. The other is our 17,000 undergraduate students. Right? The huge challenge is the many-to-many mapping between degree and career. But that, of course, makes sense because we're not a professional school. Right? We're educating people, period. Right? We're not educating professionals who are going to plug in to a particular type of opportunity. The thing that makes this exciting is that these data show to each one of our students that they can end up wherever they want to end up, studying whatever it is that they'd like to study. Right? It's about the journey, and it's about the ability to become one of those self-learning machines. Right? That's what these data show us. So I mentioned space. One of the things that I noticed when I first visited LSA was that the LSA building seemed a little strange. We're on State Street. There's this huge lobby with that blinky light thing over by the elevators. And there are no people in the building. There are actually lots of people in the building, but they're all behind closed doors on the 1st floor or upstairs. 30 or 40 years ago, when you had to speak to a person to interact with the registrar's office, or when you needed to pay your bills with an actual check, that building was actually quite a hub of activity. Today it's not, and we've been using the first floor of that building as back office space. It's also the case that as a college, we don't have a front door. Right, if you ask our students, what is LSA? They'd be like, I don't know, maybe those 3 letters that come after my name if I write for the Daily. Now, they don't really have a sense of what the college is, and part of that is because we don't have a space that's our own. We actually have lots of spaces, lots of iconic spaces, Angel Hall probably being the greatest among them. But we don't have a front door for the college. And it seemed to me a great opportunity for us to use this space, which is completely underutilized, to be able to support the commitment we're making to our students. Right, a commitment to a rich liberal arts and sciences education, and a commitment on behalf of the college to ensure that each and every one of our students has the opportunity to chart their own path through our curriculum. So yesterday, the Regents approved moving forward on another major capital project to renovate the LSA building. We will be proposing an addition to the building to the west towards the Cube. Think big glass addition. The idea is to bring students into this space. We're going to clear out the first floor of the LSA building, and the folks who are working in the LSA Hub, Opportunity Hub, are going to be located in that space. Our scholarship office is going to be in that space, student recruitment is going to be in that space, Optimize is going to be in that space, and LSA Student Government is going to be in that space as well. It's going to be 24/7 space. Our students are going to be able to study there. There'll be a classroom. They'll be able to learn there. We're going to put in interview rooms so students can have one-on-one meetings with our alumni and interview for internships. Right? We want to build a place where the physical space says, this is who we are as a college. Right? You sort of imagine that senior in high school, there's lots of them walking around campus today, walking out of that student activities building to begin their campus tour. The first thing they're going to see is the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. This is something that is going to put our mark on this campus in very important ways. We're also going to build a virtual Opportunity Hub, and in fact, in an alpha version, the Virtual Opportunity Hub launched today. This is going to be a virtual place for our students to see what's available to them on campus, whether that's an upcoming recruiting event or connecting with a mentor, right, working on LinkedIn, seeing what's happening in the applied liberal arts curriculum. And we're going to be sharing data with other offices on campus, and making sure that we're capturing very rich data, not only about our students' academic performance, but also the other experiences that they're getting on campus, so we can provide them even richer guidance through our curriculum. Let me talk a little bit about time frame for this project. So the Regents approved the project yesterday at the meeting, which is something that was wonderful and quite a relief for all of us who worked on this project for so long. We are beginning the design phase now, which will then ultimately lead to going out for bids and then breaking ground. If everything goes according to plan, we'll be in the space by the fall 2018 semester. Right, so all of our students who started last week, right, those students by the time they're juniors will be able to be in the Opportunity Hub, hoping to do a grand opening 2 years from today. We should note, though, that the team is here and ready to help. Right, our internship program is going to continue to grow, right, and is going to be doing lots of great outreach work. And as we add other parts of the team, we're not going to wait for the space, but we're going to be thoughtful and deliberate as we build going forward. As I mentioned, the team will be moved down to the first floor of the LSA building until we break ground. Then they get to come back up to the second floor, and they'll be there until we inhabit the space. I should also note that we've had great philanthropic support for this project. I have a goal, which will be part of the Victors for Michigan campaign, to raise $75 million to support this project. $50 million for the hub itself, $20 million to help with the capital project, and $30 million to support programming. The development team and I have been on a road show since May. We've hit 6 cities, including London, and I'll be in Chicago next week to talk about this project such that our biggest supporters can get on board. We're also going to raise $25 million to endow student scholarship support for summer internships. If we can get to that point, we will be able to support the full need of our students for summer internships in perpetuity. And I have all the confidence in the world that we'll be able to raise this money over the next couple of years. So before I turn things over to you to ask questions and to hear your feedback, I just want to close with what I think things will look like 10 years from now with the Opportunity Hub. I think the LSA Opportunity Hub is something that's going to define the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, just like the Cube and the Big House and Angel Hall define the University of Michigan. We'll have a physical space where every student will spend some time not only interacting with our professional team that are there to help them, but also to interact and learn from one another as they explore the richness of their academic career. We'll have a team of professionals that are known as best in class. Every college in the country is going to want to come and learn what we're doing at the University of Michigan. And every one of our liberal arts and sciences students in LSA is engaging with this group, such that they can tell the world what it is that they're learning and feel fully supported by the college that they're enrolled in. And understand that whatever happens, that everything is going to be just fine and that we've helped provide them for a rich life. And in yet another domain, I hope that LSA will be viewed as another national leader. This time, in helping students translate their liberal arts and sciences education into even richer opportunities, and in helping them envision the paths before them, and most importantly, to look at life after graduation not as a cause of anxiety, but rather as a source for boundless enthusiasm. That's what we're going to be accomplishing with the LSA Opportunity Hub, and I'm really grateful that you're here to hear about it today, and I really hope that you'll help us as we think through this incredibly important project. So with that, I will close, and with the remainder of our time, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have mics on both sides. Deborah has a question.
Thank you very much for really interesting and stimulating presentation on the state of the college. You began by talking about questions of underserved minorities, yes. And you ended up with this Opportunity Hub. But I'd really appreciate it if you could make some connection between the beginning and the end of the talk.
Sure. So here's the connection. The most privileged students who come to our campus have very thick Rolodexes. Actually, virtual Rolodexes. No one actually has a Rolodex anymore. But they have incredible social capital. Right? They need an internship. They call a family friend, and they get an internship. Right? They understand that they actually could study in Europe or in South America or in Asia for a semester. Right? They understand what opportunities they have before them because their parents have been to college. Our least privileged students, many of whom are first generation, don't even know what's possible. And what the Hub is going to help those students do, it's going to help them understand what's possible, and with the financial support that we're able to provide as a college to actually make those things a reality. Right? Another way to think about it is that our alumni network is this huge reservoir of human capital. And those folks are happy to help any Michigan student. We just have to make the connection. And so I view the Hub as a way to level the types of opportunities that are available to our least privileged students, such that they look a lot like the opportunities that are available to our most privileged students. And I can certainly tell you, and the internship team can tell you, when you talk to these students and say, no, you really can go to Salt Lake and work at Goldman next year, and we're going to provide you money so you can do it, it's almost shocking, right? We need to talk more about this type of commitment. That's how the beginning and the end connect, at least in my mind.
Hi, just a quick question about the Opportunity Hub. Student employment at the university is also a great opportunity for them to learn skills, and I'm wondering if there's going to be an emphasis on finding work during the school year and also during the summer here at the university.
So that is a great point, and the answer is a big yes. I can tell you it's something that we've not been doing proactively yet. It's something we sort of have known about and sort of helped make some connections on ad hoc bases. But that's a great point, and it's something that we'll build into the program. Absolutely. Thank you. Nils.
I was wondering how much opportunity is there for collaboration between colleges and units, schools, and so forth. Case in point, there's, for example, a post-bac support program funded by the NIH that I'm an associate director for. And upon inquiry, LSA, unlike College of Engineering and Medical School, did not choose to support such a program, even though the idea is to expand on the post-bac programs. So I'm just curious, is that it's hard to collaborate between units? Is that the problem?
So in my experience, it's not hard to collaborate across units if you get the right people in the room. Right? And one of the things that we've working very closely with the Career Center on, which is part of Student Life, is beginning to get all of the people that are working in this same space together. So we can share data, we can share best practices, and we can be a little bit more strategic. Right? It's sort of strange for an employer to come here and interview on 2 or 3 different parts of campus. So part of this program is a commitment to be part of that community that exists across campus. And we're fully committed to collaborating in every way that we can for the simple reason that it's for the good of our students. Question over here.
What role do you see students and student organizations playing in playing a role in the planning, development, and operations of the Opportunity Hub?
A huge role. We have done a number of different focus groups last academic year, and over the course of this academic year, we're going to have lots of focus groups, town hall opportunities. We really are interested in hearing from students what are the types of things that you're interested in. I can tell you with our internship program, we're collecting lots of data from our students, lots of feedback, both pre-internship, during internship, after internship, what's working, what's not working, right? And so right in this sort of short period of time right now, I want your feedback on our DEI plan because we've got a short amount of time before we launch. Thereafter, we're going to have the same type of effort with regard to the Opportunity Hub. We're making this investment for the students, and we need to hear from you all what it is that's going to be most effective and least effective. And certainly, Paula, Associate Dean Curzan, and others, we really want to hear what we should be doing. Yes, Marjorie.
Hi. I really like the concept of a front door for LSA. I agree with your assessment of the building now and your vision for it. I heard you talk a lot about what will be visible and evident for visiting students and students that are drawing to the hub. And given that you see it as sort of the entry to the college, have you thought about how you can, in that space, at least showcase the brilliant faculty and the amazing research that we do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a designer. I'd be like the last guy to figure out actually how to do it. But it's something that we've already been talking with the architects about, and it's certainly something our marketing communications team is thinking about as well, right? Because what we want to be celebrating is us, right? And us includes our students and our faculty and our staff and all of the amazing things that we're doing, right? Because it's going to be a very wired space, it's going to be wide open, we're going to be able to do a lot of electronic signage, right? So we'll be able to continue to curate the content that we're able to show at any given point in time. So it's something that we're thinking about. We're not nearly to the point of the design phase to have many concrete thoughts about it, but it's something that we're thinking about. And if you're a good designer and you've got some concrete ideas about how to do that, we would certainly be interested in hearing them. It's Patty.
What role do you see the departments having in the Opportunity Hub?
So I think I mean, the role is an important one, a really important one, because in a sense, the departments are some of the spokes. There's other spokes that are out there as well. So many departments, including the Department of Psychology, are already doing great things in this space. And we want to support that, right? And some of that support is going to be financial, and some of that support is going to be in terms of our team to help those programs work even better. We want to learn from the departments what's working in psychology so we can share it with other departments and programs as well. We're going to ask a little bit from you as well, and a lot of the asking we're going to do is going to have to do with the data. Right? Just like with academic advising, where we're all on a common platform, we're going to move to that with regard to the data about this effort as well. The thing that's really great that we've learned over the last year as we've gone out to the units and asked, what are the things that you all are doing, is how many interesting and creative things that are happening in our departments and programs. And we want to continue to allow units to do great and innovative things. Right? So we're not going to stand in the way. Our job is to step in, be helpful when we can, get out of the way when we can, such that us as a group can collectively support all of our students. And the model for that's academic advising. We've got a big central advising function, works with our beginning students, works with some of our upper level students. There's lots of specialty advising for different student groups and for students with different professional interests. And there's advising that's happening out in all of our majors as well. And that's the same type of model we intend to use here.
I have 2 questions on this side.
Yes.
So I'm sure this is probably being considered, but I just wanted to bring up safety because as a staff member, I travel from buildings in the Diag to the LSA building, and we're traveling with students, and I think that the city and the university have done a great job in creating pedestrian walk areas that are for safety, but they're at over capacity. Mm-hmm. So you still have a lot of jaywalking. It is Ann Arbor, I get that, but I just don't think there's a direct connector across from the LSA building, and I worry about creating a central hub and safety of people connecting the 2 halves of the campus.
Yep. No, that's a great point. It's something that we are thinking about. And as we think about the Union, which is going to be renovated a little bit after our renovation is done, I hope, we're thinking about those pedestrian walkways. If you remember, we did move the one crosswalk from right in front of the LSA building over to in between LSA and the Union. It's better signed there. One of the things we're seeing today is people cutting through the LSA building to get from the parking structures to the other side of State Street. And so we're thinking a lot about the flow through the building, right? In a sense, to get people not to flow out necessarily at State Street, but at the crosswalk. So it's something that we're working on, but it's a great point. Thank you.
Hello. So
Hello.
as somebody who already has the name Opportunity in her program, I'm curious how you're going to help us, or thinking about strategically taking some of the other opportunities for students that are sort of scattered at the far ends of the campus and making them either not only electronically connected, but maybe physically better connected for students, because I worry that people will put all their attention in that space and we won't have good connections to all the other existing opportunities that really do exist all across
Sure,
campus.
absolutely. I mean, so in a minute, we're not going to be able to do physical co-location. I can't move Europe, I can't move CGIS. We're not going to be able to get all of these functions in the same place, which if we were designing things from scratch, we might think about doing. But I think the team is really going to be tasked with thinking about how we use our space and how do we use our team to get out there, and also how to bring things into our space. I can tell you that we're going to have event space for smallish type events up to 150 receptions for 150 or thereabouts, which are going to be available to all of you in LSA at no charge. You're going to be able to come in and use that space to be able to talk about your programs. That's not going to be quite the same as co-location, but we're going to use the space to help facilitate that. It's going to be a work in progress. We're going to see, but I suspect that as students begin to to think a little bit more intentionally about what's available to them, they're going to, we're going to use the space to help them see what those things look like and send them over to you at UROP. It's something we need to work on, but I think it's a great point.
Julie, I see a question on the other side when you're done.
Yeah, hi, Owen here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I hear contradictory things about our endowment. Sometimes I hear that as a public research university, we do pretty well in comparison to others with respect to our endowment. And other times I hear that in comparison to the private universities, our endowment is very poor. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about what our endowment is and what kind of a difference does it make?
Sure. Well, the endowment makes a huge difference. So the university endowment today is $11 billion. Of that $11 billion, $1 billion roughly is the LSA endowment. In terms of public universities, we're at the very, very top, along with the University of Texas. Now, there are many of our private peers, some of which are much smaller than us, so fewer students, fewer faculty that have much larger endowments. Right? So the endowment is incredibly important in terms of what we do. Right? You think about that, that's a big number. Right? And every year we spend about 4.5% of that endowment to support lots of different activities. Almost all of that endowment is to support things that were chosen by the individual who gave us the money and that the university agreed to. So a lot of that endowment is for student support in terms of scholarships, and we love spending that money on our students. Some of those endowments are to support faculty positions through endowed chairs. We have some endowments to support research, other endowments that pay for maintenance on buildings. And so, I mean, from my perspective, we have a very healthy endowment that allows us to do lots of things that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Right? At the same time, most of that endowment is already earmarked for other things. Right? And so for us to be able to support something like internship scholarships, where we do have a modest endowment already that we've raised for that purpose over the last 2 years, we need to continue to add in order to be able to support that. So is that helpful? Okay. I think we have time for one more question.
Do you foresee the resources, the collection of all the varied resources being just LS&A or across the university as part of the Opportunity Hub?
So we're making an investment for LSA students, but we make lots of investments and do lots of things that extend campus-wide, for the simple reason that every undergraduate student on this campus spends some of their time in LSA. So we're not going to shut the doors and tell a student from another school and college that they can't use some of the things that we're doing, participate in some of our programs. But in a situation where we've got a fixed size, LSA students are going to be first in line. Right? We're going to work really hard to maintain a collaborative relationship with our partners across campus, really with the idea of opening the doors to all of these different types of opportunities that are available to our students across campus. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful semester. Thank you.